Open Minds Media.
Indiana County 911. My brother's gone. Can you be a little more specific, sir? He took my brother. Who took him? I don't know who took him. I don't know what. Sir, they're done. Take a breath. Explain to me what happened.
And I looked out and there was this big red blinking UFO.
I can just say this. Something's going on in the woods. Something's going on.
They're not dogs, they're not coyotes. What could it be, right?
I had an encounter with a skunk ape, and it completely altered the course of my life.
I found a skull. I think you guys are going to want to come film this.
Put him out.
I just see it.
Sightings of a UFO hovering over a barn.
Millie woke up from a dream, and when I went into the bedroom, she said there's a monster on the wall.
They saw that the creature had run through a barbed wire fence. They were able to obtain hairs. They sent the hairs to their lab, and it came back as an unknown creature.
Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin.
What is up, bizarre-ites, and welcome back to the absolute most bizarre show on the internet. I am the one that blood chugger called Shane Squatch.
And I am the big bad boo daddy, Orin Felix.
I'm just going to give him a shout out in the beginning of every single episode because he's cool enough that he deserves that, and he actually appreciates it because he's commented every time, and he's like, thanks for the shout out, even on Spotify and stuff. So every episode, man, the one guy that calls me, I'm going to prop
of the show, blood chugger.
There you go. So kind of getting into things. First and foremost, of course, we have something exciting going on tomorrow. So, Orin, why don't you let them know about it if they haven't already picked it up already?
All right. So by the time this episode drops tomorrow on April 3rd, we're going to be doing our monthly YouTube live episode of Bizarre Inquiries. It's going to be at 7:15 Eastern time on the Open Minds Media YouTube channel. You guys can still submit questions and articles or whatever you want us to inquire about. And be sure to join us in the chat as well. Last month, we had a lot of good interaction, a lot of comments. It was a lot of fun, getting to talk to people and interact as we were going through the articles and whatnot. So, you guys definitely hop on and talk to us and interact.
And some other exciting news for people that have also enjoyed the live episodes of Bizarre Inquiries. I am now going to be doing this new thing where instead of doing the lives through Riverside on Patreon, the premium video will still be up on Patreon. You won't be able to get that on YouTube. But anytime we're recording, we're going to start recording the show live onto YouTube. The video afterwards will be removed because I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out the Patreon. But if you guys want to catch the episode early and you guys want to watch it as video live, completely free on the Open Minds Media YouTube. So make sure you guys set your notification thing on YouTube so that you get notifications when that's happening because it may not be the same every single week for inquiries at least, but for Bizarre Encounters, just assume that every week on Thursday around 7:15, 7:30 p.m., somewhere in that area, there will be a live episode of Bizarre Encounters for you guys to check out on YouTube. So very exciting. And then you guys will be able to pop into the chat and, give your comments, your feedback on anything that we're covering that day. Or, if we have an awesome guest, you guys can throw in your questions. So figured it'd be a fun way to just interact with you guys a little bit more as a community. So...
And if anyone out there wants to be a guest on the show or get up with us for any reason whatsoever, Shane, why don't you tell them how they can do that?
First and foremost, you guys can email us at bizarreencounters@outlook.com, or you guys can also contact us through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the ones that we are the most active on. Or you guys can also hit us up through the submission form, which is available on the link tree. And last but not least, you guys can call in or text the hotline number, and that number is 313-364-1551. And if you call, don't get afraid that I'll answer directly because I don't. It goes right to a voicemail and gets recorded as an MP3, and then I'll contact you guys later. But that being said, of course, I've been trying to get it going on the show a little bit. If you guys want to give some shout-outs on the show, show your appreciation for the show, anything like that, call into that number and record it, and we will play it in the intro for the show. It's a fun thing, again, that I want to kind of start doing to bring in the community with everybody. But make sure you guys utilize all of the different ways to contact us.
And as always, all of the shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description. All right, so tonight's episode is something that Shayn put together, and he's been a little mysterious about this one, so I'm going to kind of figure out some of the subject matter in real time with you guys out there. So without further ado, Shayn, I'm going to kick it over to you so you can start with the subject that you've presented for us tonight.
So, this is going to be part of hopefully an ongoing series. I know with a lot of the stuff that we've done for Cryptid Grab Bag, it's been a lot of North Carolina stuff. So, of course, half of the hosts of the show are from North Carolina. So you cover a lot of that stuff. But on the opposite opposing side, I feel like I haven't done just for the Michigan stuff. So I'm going to try to make sure that I do a new series of, honestly, just really, really strange stuff and reports and sightings and everything around Michigan. I'm going to be calling this Michigan Mysteries. That is going to be the name of this ongoing series.
Alliteration. That's good.
There you go. You like that? And for this particular one, I got most of my information for where I'm going to be diving into today from Linda Godfrey's book, Strange Michigan. And there are a lot of other books I have on my shelf to dive into. And this is barely even covering some of the interesting stuff in here. But I put together something really, really awesome for you guys. And all the stuff that we're going to be covering today, for Michigan stuff, you'd expect the Dog Man, you'd expect all that kind of stuff. But, that's too generic. I'm going to try to go with the most obscure stuff I could possibly find in this book, at least for the first series. Maybe when we come back to it later on, we will cover some of the more generic Michigan stuff. But for this one, I try to look for the absolute most obscure. And as you guys have noticed from the last few times that I put the show together, I put them together a little bit different than Orin. He's a little bit more structured and formatted where I kind of just investigate into something and try to take you guys along the journey. So that's kind of what's going to be happening today, because I got a bunch of articles and clips that are connecting with some of the stuff that I had found in this book today. And a lot of the stuff coming from this book are straight reports. So a lot of you guys see that I like to do stuff straight from the horse's mouth. I like to make sure that if you're getting the report sighting, it's exactly as the person described their sighting. So like I said, I had to make sure I give credit to the direct book that I got it from. Can't say it enough, because she was one of the pillars in the community. Linda Godfrey, again, Strange Michigan. Full props to that book for all this information. But the first one we're going to be diving into today is the Capac Porch Entity. And fugitive from a UFO, follicle challenged Bigfoot looking to abduct some Rogaine entity. The unusual word for something of undetermined weirdness really is the best descriptive word in the odd case involving an anomalous man from the MichiganUFOfiles.com website, blah, 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 blah. And actually, we will get into that as soon as I am done with this story, because I had to use the wonderful Wayback Machine to find that article. But I did find the original clip that this one came from, so we will be diving into that one in a minute. But supposedly the reporting goes, the man who lived in the little town of Capac, about 20 miles north of Detroit, was having a hard time sleeping the night of March 28th, 2003. He finally got up to take a pain reliever about midnight and settled into the living room sofa to watch a little TV. He had barely seated himself. However, he had heard something or someone running across his porch. He jumped up immediately and looked out the front door just in time to see the intruder disappear around the house, still on the wraparound porch that extended around the corner. He said it was of average height, but had abnormally long arms. Its arms and legs were somewhat spiny and had a larger than normal bald head. It did not get a good look at its face. He said, I did not get a good look at his face, but I could tell that it was not human. Within seconds after the creature left the man's field of vision, the electricity suddenly winked out in the man's house, and he could see two large blue spotlights in a nearby field, about 800 yards away. The lights moved as if they were searching for something, he said. When they finally moved into the distance, his house lights came back on. A neighbor confirmed the next day that her lights also went out at the same time, and that she saw the blue lights in the field as well. And according to the story, she admonished the inquiring witnesses, people around here don't talk about these things. And for anybody that's watching this on video, and Orin will be able to see it, here is a picture of what this guy claims this thing looked like.
Okay, that's pretty freaky looking.
Right? So it kind of looks like it has like the Sasquatch walk, but it definitely seems like something else. Because, I mean, you bring in the whole blue light aspect, and I guess I'll kind of let you get your ideas on this one before I get too far into it. But just to bring up the original report while I'm still on this mindset, like I mentioned, this website doesn't exist anymore. It was MichiganUFOs.com. But thanks to good old Wayback Machine, I was able to go back to this website that got deleted, I think, in 2006 and bring up this 2003 report. And this is honestly about all that there really is of it. And I've tried to search this on the internet, couldn't find it anywhere, tried it on Brave, tried it on a bunch of different search engines, and literally this website won't even pop up because this website doesn't exist anymore. So like there is no information on this other than basically what she has in this book and this little paragraph that can only be found using, like I said, good old Wayback Machine. And if you want to read this report, like I said, it's kind of explaining the same information, but the original report says, the witness reports, I woke up to take a pain reliever at midnight, turned on the TV, and sat on the living room couch facing the window when a creature ran across my porch on March 28th, 2003. I quickly jumped up and looked out the door to see it run around the corner of my house on the porch. It was about average height, had an abnormally long arms. The arms and legs were somewhat spiny, and it had a larger than normal bald head. I did not get a good look at his face, but I could tell it was not human. Within a few seconds of this, the lights went out and I could see the two blue lights in the sky moving as if they were searching for something. The spotlights were in the field across from about 800 feet. As they moved away, the power came back. The morning I called my friend and she said her electricity and lights had gone out, and she also saw the blue lights in the sky. She told me that people around her don't talk about these things, thanks to Peter Bravin, NUFORC. And there's a little web note at the bottom that says, Webmaster note, witness has been contacted and interviewed May 30th, 2003 by MUFON investigator, and updates will be posted as they are received, both here and on the MUFON website. And when I tried to click that and put that in Wayback Machine, that didn't lead anywhere. I tried to do more searching on this site, and it didn't lead anywhere. So unfortunately, I was not able to find that interview. So that was kind of the dead end on this one. But I'll let you put your thoughts in before I just keep going off on this one.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. I've never heard this story, obviously, but I think it's kind of interesting that, you know, they talk about like the power going out, which, you know, is a hallmark in these kind of high strangeness cases. We talk about that all the time. I also thought an interesting kind of tidbit was that the witness described them specifically as spotlights and not as orbs. So that would kind of lead me to believe that it's some sort of like UFO type situation going on, more so than, you know, orb, fae, elemental, anything like that. And then, you know, just the creature itself, the fact that it's of average height, and, you know, just from the picture you showed, it didn't seem like it was as muscular as, you know, Bigfoot are normally portrayed. It was more kind of slender, and, you know, the description of like, what was it, like spikes or quills? I don't remember the exact word that was used to describe it, but that almost gave me like kind of reptilian lizard people, lizard man type vibes. So, yeah, that's a real interesting one. I think it kind of hits on a lot of things, but like not super specifically right on anything that we talk about on the show. So, yeah, this might be just one of those weird one-offs where this type of creature was never seen again and not seen before that.
See, what throws me off with this one is that it definitely has the UFO feel to it because the lights, you know, that's kind of usually how most people take that. But on the other side, I've never personally heard any other reports about a hairy extraterrestrial by any means. Usually anything that's hairy usually leads into some type of like cryptid encounter. And then on the flip side of this one, I mean, at least from the rendition I saw, it almost kind of looks like a starving Sasquatch or like a malnourished Sasquatch. I mean, if you are kind of using that as a possible like answer to this thing. And I mean, if that is the case, it would definitely make sense why it was up on the porch, because if it was starving or was looking for food or something, then, you know, maybe it was looking up closer to the house thinking it might be able to find something. Or on the other side, man, if it has mange, maybe that thing was going crazy and it was just getting too close. Like,
that's what I was just going to say, like only slightly joking. What if it was like a mangy juvenile Sasquatch?
See, that was my next best theory on that one, because even with the lights, I mean, that kind of goes two ways with Sasquatch stuff too. And the only reason I'm saying that is particularly because they mentioned blue spotlights. Like, with a lot of the weird woo-woo UFO or Sasquatch stuff that I've dived into, specifically like Carter, who was a guest on the show a long time ago, he's noticed this. Most people that observe lights around Sasquatch experiences or orbs, most of the time they reference them being blue, and for whatever reason, there seems to be a connection with like Sasquatch sightings and like blue orbs. So like that was the only reason that I don't know. I kind of get that extraterrestrial feel, but on the other side, like, is it some type of typical Sasquatch thing? And this was just some type of blue orb that came after? And I mean, the connection on that is a whole other, rabbit hole to get off into, but.
And, this is one of those things where it could be an issue of language. Maybe just a blue spotlight was the best language that this person had for these orbs that they saw, So, I mean, I think that's an interesting way of looking at it too. Because basically the piece of information that kind of kicks it into the UFO arena is the spotlights. But if they're actually orbs, this is way more of like some weird cryptid that we've never heard of type situation.
See, and I think it's a matter of like where to place this, because obviously this was investigated by MUFON, and that's solely off of the fact that there was blue lights that were seen in the electricity going out. Because that was the other thing we forgot to mention, is that the sky's electricity went out and they came back on.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
But if it wasn't for that, then like, I don't know, it's 2003. There may not have been as many.
That kind of happens in like poltergeist cases and stuff too. So, but,
I mean, even Bat Squatch. If you remember that one, Bat Squatch messes with electricity too, and that's some type of cryptid type creature. But I mean, maybe it's just 2003. There's probably not too many places to report something like this to. Like, I'm sure there were some Sasquatch databases and stuff, but like, this is one of those weird ones that I feel like the only place that they could have put it, at least in 2003, was on like some type of UFO or MUFON page. Otherwise, it would have just literally been one of those experiences that just it almost was completely forgotten. In all fairness, like, if it wasn't for her putting in this book and it being brought back up, it would have been forgotten. But like, just something that just is going to fall into obscurity. And if there wasn't the UFO aspect to it, somebody would have had this experience and it just never would have been heard from again.
Yeah. So I mean, I think kind of rounding it out where I fall on this one, I tend to kind of agree with you. I think that it's probably more so a little bit of like a cryptid type situation than an extraterrestrial UFO type deal. But yeah, really cool story. Different than a lot of stuff we talk about. So, it's kind of cool to talk about these things that at least I've never heard of. I mean, you can only talk about Bigfoot and, Mothman and shit like that so many times. You gotta kind of mix in some weird stuff every now and then.
Oh, wait, man, it gets a lot weirder. Just wait for this next one. Hold on tight, guys. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break.
But in the meantime, don't forget to follow Bizarre Encounters on Instagram and Facebook, and don't forget to check out Open Minds Media on YouTube and TikTok. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment or spark up a conversation. We love getting to know you guys.
And now back to the show. The next one we're going to be diving into is the Clare Deer Man.
Okay.
So, this one is one that somebody had turned into Linda at some point. It's coming from somebody named Joseph Stewart, who she marks as contributor. So again, this is one of those ones that's direct report from somebody, so I just want to read it exactly how it is from the horse's mouth. So it's in first person, so I just figured I'd forewarn you before you're hearing me say I, and clearly I'm not in the story. But diving into it, the Clare Deer Man of Clare County. Even though I have personally never set eyes on the Deer Man of Clare County, the idea of such a creature still sticks in my mind after 37 years. During that time, I was a field investigator for Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, a leading UFO organization in the 1960s. I had read in the Lansing State Journal of numerous sightings of UFOs in Clare, Michigan. It just so happened that some friends of mine owned a cabin a little west of Clare, and they invited me up for Memorial Day weekend. They felt a little adventure was in order, and I was sure I could serve that up for them. The year was 1971, and UFO sightings were still being reported in the newspaper near, if not on, the front page. The public attitude towards UFOs at the time was that everyone who saw a UFO had to be drunk or smoking the local weed. Worse yet, anyone who investigated UFOs was crazy. Many ufologists were in the closet in these days. This UFO event in Clare had been going on for several weeks. I could only hope that it was still going on. I had read in the newspaper there was a lot of UFO activity in the area that was a local lover's lane on Henrick Road, just out of US Highway 10.
So we already got a lover's lane there.
Yep, already got a lover's lane situation going.
Okay.
My friend and I were now well on our way to Clare. We were traveling up north 127 in my 1963 Volkswagen Bug. The plan was to meet my friend's brother at the cabin. As luck should have it, just as we entered the Clare area, a Michigan State trooper pulled me over for some vehicle equipment issue. While we had trooper's attention, I mentioned the reason we were up there and wanted to know what they knew about the sightings. At first, I thought he was going to laugh at us and then impound the car. Instead, he grew very serious, told us what he knew, and confirmed the locations of the sightings. The reports involved strange lights that ran up and down the countryside named Henrik, harassing the local lovers who had occasionally gave chase to the lights. In the middle of our discussion, the trooper paused and asked if I had heard of what the locals called the Deer Man. That took me by surprise. I was speechless, but managed to get out a no. I do not remember all the details of the sighting, but I believe hunters and local residents made the reports in the 1950s. The Deer Man was reported to be between 4 and 5 feet in stature and was bipedal. The lower half of the body was like that of a deer's hindquarters. The upper half was very human-like. He had arms, hands, fingers, and normal-looking head. The eyes, even though, were a bit odd. They were brown and deer-like, yet seemed to have a human stature. The body hair was short and nappy. However, the lower half of the body hair was more like a deer hide, brownish in color, similar to what a deer's color would be in October in Michigan. It was also reported that the Deer Man moved about in a leaping motion, like a deer on the run. It was very agile and maneuvered well into the woods. It was also reported that the Deer Man would emit sounds similar to a deer's. At first, I thought it might be one of those strange kangaroo sightings we had in the East Lansing area. This happened on the southbound part of Michigan State University landholding in the 1960s. After listening to the Deer Man's description, I thought differently. The officer thought I might be interested in researching the Deer Man sightings. He was right on target, but I was hunting UFOs at the time, so I had to file the Deer Man away for a future cryptid investigation. It seems to me that the Deer Man is very similar to the satyr known as Pan from Greek mythology, who is a half man and half human. Maybe there's something to the Pan myth. It appears his American cousin, the Deer Man of Clare, Michigan, is alive and well, and perhaps still out there somewhere.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, diving into one of the more obscure ones. Like I said, I tried to do a little bit of research on that one to see if I could find any of these like direct reports. And honestly, like I didn't find anything on it. What I'm going to try to do though at some point, because maybe I can do a little bit more with this one because I'm kind of interested in it because it's not too far away from me. I'm going to try to do something where I dive into some local newspapers and see if I can find some of the old newspapers and see if I could find some of these old reports and sightings of it. And, like I said, Clare ain't even too far from me. So maybe I could even make an excuse to go out there and possibly ask some people around on if they've heard anything about this Deer Man. But it's one of those ones that, again, you really don't find any information about it on the internet because you end up finding two other things, which we can definitely get into in a minute. But I'll let you put your thoughts on this one first.
No, I had actually written down before you mentioned it in the account there. Like this is just like Pan, Fawns, Goat Man, that whole thing, which we talked about not so long ago on a cryptid grab bag. So I mean, I think anything that you could say for those type, Goat Man type creatures, you could say for this Deer Man type thing, and that's another game of telephone situation. One person's Goat Man is another person's Deer Man.
Yeah, I was to say Goat Man, Deer Man, they could all literally be the same thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, throwing in some theories on this one, let me bring up this first webpage. One of the first ideas that I had on this one is something that's been pretty popular in the cryptid community lately. And for anybody that hasn't heard of it, it is the knot deer. And to read a little bit about it, the knot deer, a legendary creature or cryptid that is said to live in Appalachia, particularly in the western North Carolina, United States. They are said to resemble white-tailed deer at a glance, but upon closer inspection, exhibit strange features such as unnatural proportions, strange eyes, and disjointed limbs. They are also described as exhibiting unusual behavior, such as unnatural movement, staring blankly into the distance, and also showing no fear of humans. It is likely that the stories of these creatures were based on encounters with deer infected with chronic wasting disease, which is kind of the generic cover up for this phenomenon that, you know, kind of just seems like that's what it is. Like, let's just place it here and not put too much thought into it. But kind of diving into some other part, the myth originated as a local story from Boone, North Carolina, before gaining more widespread popularity online in 2020s through platforms such as 4chan, Tumblr, Reddit, and TikTok. So throw in a little bit of North Carolina with a little bit of Michigan history on weird deer creatures.
So what's kind of funny about that, it's probably only been a couple weeks ago at this point, my sister sent me like an Instagram reel, and it was from somewhere in Western North Carolina, the Appalachian area. I don't remember exactly where it was. But this woman had made this recording like through her sliding glass door of this creature. And it looked exactly like her dog, but her dog was like inside. And, you know, this creature, whatever it was, had these like weird glowing eyes, like in this not deer depiction here that you've got pulled up. So it was kind of the same thing. It was like this almost, you know, like their dog, but it clearly wasn't. And, you know, is basically saying how she thought it was like some sort of almost like a Wendigo type situation. So, you know, maybe it's these not deer situations are, you know, some sort of spirit or elemental or something like that can take on the form of other animals to kind of try to trick people.
So to throw in something on this one. So I recently had this guy named Shayn Orin on, who is... He's a Navajo. He lives on the reservation. He's one of the few Navajos that are actually out here that are actually talking about like the skinwalker from like their native perspective. And I had him on the show recently, and he was kind of trying to break down basically this confusion that a lot of people have on like what the skinwalker is. And part of what he was mentioning was the fact that skinwalkers are particularly from, you know, like the Navajo Nation, like that's the Navajo name for this thing. But he also mentioned the fact that within all of their tribes, there are these things, they just go by different names. So for anybody that says like skinwalkers, you know, it's a region specific name for something that's in this area, but it's still a phenomenon that's seen everywhere. So if people are reporting something that's like a skinwalker, you know, out in Maine, for example, you can't just throw that their statement is complete bullshit just because, you know, Wendigos are here, because he mentioned that, again, they have different names in different tribes, but this is like an existing thing. But anyways, what I was trying to get to. So basically what he was describing was the fact that basically it would be like somebody who has somewhat of an understanding of shamanism or medicine man practice, who basically takes the trick shortcut to be able to use this animal energy. And part of it is that you like, you know, collect these different furs and everything, and you could turn into these different animals, but you can only do it at night, because he says if you are still in your animal form when it comes to daytime, then you're going to be trapped in that basically forever. So what I was kind of wondering was, if you have that human component that's trapped inside of this animal component and it can't escape, would you possibly end up with something like this? Like, could this whole not deer phenomenon be an extension of this skinwalker / extending to other names of different tribes phenomenon of ones that didn't get back into their human form before daylight came out?
Oh, something else that just popped into my head while you were just talking there. We've talked about here recently on the show a piece of folklore where a person was turned into a deer and could not return to their human form. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was the Roanoke colony one. Talking about
exactly.
Virginia.
And the story of Virginia Dare being turned into this white deer by a medicine man, and she could not return to her human form until she died. So, you know, that is kind of a more, I think, artistic depiction of this same thing. But like when you were talking, I was like, okay, it's still checking all the boxes, you know?
Yeah, dude. Like I said, I think that there's something to that, at least, that it seems like these sightings were in an upspike, but at the same time, it also kind of seems like these, quote, skinwalker sightings are at an upspike. So, I mean, again, they seem like they could possibly play off each other. I mean, the most normie, rational response you could possibly say, which I do definitely take into vast consideration, is chronic wasting disease. And even we've talked about there being multiple parts to a phenomenon. Like, I think a lot of what people might be seeing is not deers could definitely be wasting disease. But on the other aspect of it, there might be a couple of them out there that it's not wasting disease. So the question is, what is that other thing? And I feel like the most logical response coming from this community's mindset would that it would possibly be something that has human consciousness to get trapped into a human body, because that would make sense with like the weird contortions and twists and shit. Like, I don't know, that makes the most sense to me, at least if you're looking at it from a little bit more woo perspective,
Well, and just the fact that these Native American tribes that are, hundreds of miles apart have basically the exact same legends and pretty much the same, justifications for why these things happen. That leads me to believe that they're based off of something. How much of the nugget of truth is there and how much of it is, kind of just exaggerated throughout the years is up for interpretation and really doesn't matter at the end of the day. But I think, like most things we talk about on this show, there's a nugget of truth there somewhere, and it's just been exaggerated and game of telephone throughout the years. But yeah, I think I'm kind of with you on that one. Like most things we talk about, a lot of the situations probably can be explained away with like the wasting disease or whatever. But if 10% of these are something weirder, that's still a lot of damn reports and cases of weird shit going on. So,
and then I do have another possible connection with this one, and I don't know how far you want to get into this one, because it could definitely be a whole other episode, and the whole intention of this was to focus on Michigan, but there are Deer Man report sightings. So the Deer Man, as these other report sighting goes, it says the Deer Man is a cryptid whose legend originates in the folklore of North America. Sightings of the Deer Man have been reported from several U.S. states, although there is some variation to the descriptions given, and going down to like appearance, a hybrid animal deer man that has been antlered head of great stag, a human's torso, and legs described as similar to those of a man or deer. In addition, it is usually said to be well muscled and surprisingly fast for its size. Other accounts gift the beast with the power of transforming itself from a regular deer into the form of the described above, which again, maybe this also plays into somewhat of the mix with the not deer thing. And like I said, I don't know how far you want to get into these sightings, but there was one in Ohio that had an unknown date about a 14-year-old seeing one. There was another one that came from Delaware in 1993. And then there was another one that was seen in the Wichita Mountain National Forest in Oklahoma in 2012.
A national forest, no shit.
Yep, in a national forest. And just like you can see from these descriptions, they're very Satyr-like. So, I mean, diving into the whole weird aspect of that for anybody that has followed the whole thing going on with... why am I brain farting on the name of that show? The one where they're researching the Kentucky Goblins.
Hellier,
there it is. Yes. The people that watched and listened to the whole thing with Hellier, they got to a certain point where they started getting into this whole, like, started noticing all these, like, Green Man depictions and all of these, like, old Celtic, like, folklore, religion, pagan type tradition things that we're seeing all over Appalachia. And if that's the case, that stuff's popping up in Appalachia, I mean, I definitely think these Deer Man sightings kind of extending from partially in Appalachia with like Ohio and Michigan and stuff, and maybe going a little bit farther out. I don't know, maybe there is some type of play in with the whole idea of like satyrs and, the Celtic religions with this. Like maybe we're just calling it a new thing, but it is just a satyr,
Well, a lot of the people from Appalachia came from, Scotland and Ireland. And that's why, what we think of as like bluegrass or folk music is very similar to like old English music. That stuff just came over here. That's where those people originated. So it makes sense to me that like these Green Man, Wild Man of the Woods type legends have taken root in Appalachia. And, that becomes a very interesting chicken or egg type situation. Like, did these people, bring these things over and they're almost like manifesting these appearances, or is it just, this is the cultural consciousness of that area? And so when you see something weird, like we talk about the phenomenon wearing masks, it presents a mask of this thing. So, I mean, that whole conversation is much larger than, we're going to dig into on this episode about Weird Michigan. But yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. And, you know, you're talking about the whole, you know, Pan and the Druids and all that kind of stuff. You can go deep in a lot of other subjects and cryptids and just all sorts of weird stuff when you start going down that rabbit hole.
I mean, just to throw in a last thing, because I mentioned it, I think on the last episode with Tom, but very unpopular opinion, but the whole like the others concept that, you know, we're not dealing with all these different variations of different creatures and stuff. We're just dealing with us and then some other conscious being that just takes the form. It doesn't have a specific form. Maybe it's something that's evolved past that, and it just takes the form of whatever you think that you want it to take the form of. I mean, it's not like that's an unheard of concept. I mean, angels, same thing realistically. Like, they have their true form, but they come into a form that's a little bit more comfortable for, you know, humans to observe. But on the other side, if you're not necessarily an angelic being, you're something that's, you know, evil, or something that you just want things to stay the hell away from you, you know, why doesn't the same logic work and you just turn it into something that's horrifying looking, you know?
Yeah, and like I said when we were talking to Tom, but I'll reiterate it here. I actually just finished it today, but I was reading The Eighth Tower by John Keel. First time I'd read that particular book by him. But basically what you said is, you know, the thrust of that book is all these manifestations of the paranormal and of the phenomenon are just what you said. They're, you know, this, he calls it the super spectrum, but basically just energy manifesting itself, and our, you know, collective consciousness, you know, the way we look at things, the way we interpret reality flavors what these things look like to us. So basically what you said there is what Keel says in The Eighth Tower.
Just to throw in another possibility of this whole phenomenon, man. I mean, obviously the aliens got something going on with genetics, so, you know, if they got a fucked up monster, maybe they just kick it out of the back door of the shuttle, and that's what we're calling cryptids.
Maybe that's what the bald Sasquatch man thing from the previous story was.
They're like, damn it, we fucked it up. Just kick it out the back door. The humans will deal with it. They'll create stories about it. It'll be a good thing for them. It'll give them some character.
Yeah, it was like the runt of the litter.
We're just trying to make a goat human, but we ended up with this satyr-looking thing, so, like, fuck it. Just kick it out the back door. It'll be fine. They'll figure it out. It'll either get killed by the humans and eaten, or it'll learn how to become a woods god. It'll be fine.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here, people. Well, not people, but aliens. Nothing to see here, Grace.
Hold that thought. We'll be back in a flash.
But if you guys don't like hearing the ads, then I have a solution for you. You can get ad-free and early access to this show and Inquiries of All Reality on the Open Minds Media Patreon for just $1 a month. That's less than a bag of chips, and it's a great way to support the show and all the hard work behind it. And if you're interested in merch store discounts or premium video versions of episodes, then there are a few other tiers with additional benefits and 7-day free trials available.
And now, back to the show.
So, diving into the next one, let me close this screen share up real quick for you know this one. All right. So, the next one is the snow snake of Escanaba in Delta County. In Michigan's Upper Peninsula, there are some winters when everything seems to be frozen white, even the animals. Legends of a monstrous serpentine creature, the color of snowdrifts, circulates here where the days grow short. They tell of a beast that slithers through the avalanche of snow that falls every year in the UP. Never mind the fact that the reptiles are cold-blooded creatures and don't function too well in freezing temperatures. Tales of the snow snake supposedly date back to ancient native lore, and local tribe nations once did indeed carve wooden snake-like figures to use in throwing games. Contemporary witnesses are hard to find. Few people, it is said, who have seen a snow snake burst from beneath the crystalline surface to face its glassy stare have lived to tell the tale. The snow snakes are also accused of mischief. Skiers who lose their balance or ice fishers whose shanties shift on the ice will often blame the hoary hue reptile for their problems. No snow snake body, living or dead, has yet been brought forth for examination, but some people claim to have seen its tracks winding through the pine forest, always ending mysteriously as if the creature has vanished into the ground below. And Orin, since you're or anybody watching the video, here is a depiction of what the snow snake supposedly looks like.
It looks like a Pokemon.
It does. And actually, here is the fun part that will connect into something that we talked about in a previous episode. So, for anybody that is familiar with the squonk, you guys will be familiar with this. The legend of the snow snake can be found in the book called Fearsome Critters by Henry Tyrone, which shares the lumberjack folklore of the northern United States and in Canada. And this book originally came out in 1939. And just to give a little bit of background on it, when we did our squonk episode, crap, where's it at? Let me make sure I bring up the window because I got to make sure I have this tab up. There it is. Boom, there it is. Okay, so for anybody, just to fill in a little bit of information on the background of this, the conclusion that we basically came to for the squonk was that it was basically just some made-up folklore for the sake of this book, because back when this book was being written, which actually, I think the publication of this book, the republished version of it was 1939, but this book originally came out in 18-something, because it was around the same time as like the Civil War, when in Pennsylvania they were chopping down all the forests, and they got to a point where like they chopped down like 90% of the trees that were in Pennsylvania, and it was completely destroying the ecosystem, like destroying everything in Pennsylvania. So this guy basically wrote this book talking about all these weird creatures that existed in the woods, so that people would be like, oh, there's weird creatures out there, I want to discover these things, I'm not going to destroy these woods. So it was a lie, but it was intended with good purpose so that people wouldn't keep destroying the woods. So with that being said, with where we got with the squonk, I didn't find any Native American tales of this snow snake coming from this region, at least. I did find some variations of it, but it seemed like a different snow snake, because they talked about this like small snake, where it seems like with a lot of the lumberjack stuff, they talk about this like way bigger snake. But coming straight from the horse's mouth, reading the book on this one, the snow snake. During the year of the two winters, when the July temperatures dropped to negative 62 degrees, these pink-eyed, white-bodied savage serpents crossed over from Siberia via Bering Strait. Via Bering Strait. They are bad actors. The venom is deadly, with a speed of action second only to that of the hop snake or the hamadryad. Hibernating in summer but becoming active in winter, the snow snake coils on a low drift where its pure white color makes it wholly invisible to its prey. One strike is sufficient. Mankind is not often bitten, as he makes too big of a mouthful, but sometimes a snake will get over ambitious. When this does happen, tanglefoot oil is the only known remedy. I was trot by a snow snake is still a much used expression of late homecomings. So yeah, I mean, diving into some of the Native American stuff too that I did find, they also made this reference to tanglefoot oil being the only cure, but I don't know what the fuck tanglefoot oil is. So
yeah, I've never heard of that.
Just for the sake of it, I'm going to look that up on the internet, but I'll let you throw your thoughts on this one while I'm looking that up on the internet.
Yeah, so just a few little thoughts. I'm glad you read that second little report there, because some of the things that popped into my head were stuff we've talked about on the show before. First off, Mongolian deathworm. That second report sounds a lot like the reports of the Mongolian deathworm to me. The other thing I thought about is, I don't know if you remember when we did kind of our cave dwelling creatures episode, when we talked about the moon-eyed people. And in the western North Carolina, like Cherokee area, they've got this story that kind of ties into the moon-eyed people of this like giant leech that inhabited this river that separated where the Native Americans lived and the moon-eyed people lived. And I'm not going to get into the whole story, but basically this giant leech caused trouble for the natives. But those are just kind of a couple things that popped in my head. You're talking about how there weren't too many other Native American legends about these sort of snakes, but here again, one person's snake could be another person's giant leech. So that's kind of where I went with it.
And just to throw in some additional information, tanglefoot oil is usually used as a super sticky organic product that forms a non-toxic barrier that stops and kills crawling insects that are out to prey on your trees. And its ingredients are gum, resins, and vegetable oil and wax. So apparently it's some type of like sticky substance you'd usually use for protecting trees because small bugs will stick to it. So I fucking don't know the logic behind that one, but okay.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm trying to bring you the obscure ones here. So that's what you get. You get a snow snake and you get a deer man. But that's not even the weirdest ones yet. We still got a couple other weird ones to get into. But do you have any more thoughts on this one before we hop on to the next one, sir?
No, I think I'm good on that one.
All right. So the next one, let me get to this page in the book. My apologies. We actually have 3 more to get into. Knowing that I am a big Sasquatch fanatic, I will get farther into more Sasquatch stuff in Michigan, but I at least have to add this one just because I thought it was really interesting. We won't go too far into this one because there's not too much that can really be said about Sasquatch encounters that we haven't already probably said on the show, but just for the sake of having it on here and bringing it back into the thought of people's minds, here is the story about the Monroe Monster of Monroe County, Michigan. It was the Depression era, the mid-1930s, when a farmer near Monroe became aware that some hulking and hairy person was lurking around the riverbanks of his property. But this was no out-of-work transition trying to live off of land between freight train rides. It was a creature completely covered in hair, man-like, but not a man. Bigfoot? Interestingly, the hairy humanoid primate, so similar to monster fans today, was not widely known in the 1930s. But in 1978, a Monroe librarian wrote a letter to a woman whose in-laws had owned that farm, recalling the stories her own father had told her about the creature and asking if she had any more information. Strange Michigan doesn't know whether the woman ever answered, but it's possible that the hairy farm lurker stuck around Monroe for at least 30 years. Monster mania struck Monroe in the mid-1960s as newspaper headlines screamed, "Monster mob clogs roads," and "Is monster loose here?" Miss Herbert Owens and her 17-year-old daughter, Christine Van Ackler, were the main focus of the clamor. The women claimed they were attacked in their car near Mental Road around midnight on Friday, August 13th, 1965, by a hairy 7-foot-tall monster who, as they drove home from visiting Miss Owens' parents. Christine was at the wheel, driving slowly due to bald tires on the family vehicle. She slowed down even more when she saw some kind of figure in the headlights. Then, to her horror, the figure reached in through the driver's side window and grabbed Christine by the hair as if to drag her out of the car. It banged her head against the doorpost until she fainted and her head fell against the horn. That brought area residents running to the woman's aid, and the creature retreated. As many as 15 area residents claimed to see the monster over the next week or so, although one sighting turned out to be nothing more than a horse. Yeah, because mixing up a horse with Sasquatch, okay.
Maybe it was a deer man.
Maybe. Fuck, it's a satyr. Some said that the creature grunted and groaned like a mad dog, but both Mrs. Owens and Christine flunked polygraph tests questioning them about the incident, and local authorities began investigating rumors that the monster was actually the local young man in a gorilla suit. At least one witness said it appeared there were men's pants visible under the beast's torso. By January 1970,
so it's a Scooby-Doo type situation.
It's a Scooby-Doo situation. Like, they're tired of kids fucking around in their neighborhood, man. They got to grab a bitch by the hair and just yank her out of the fucking car once in a while. You know how that goes.
Hey, in the 60s, you were allowed to do that sort of thing.
Give them a little smack, you can beat them with the stick as long as it's no bigger than your thumb. That was the rule, right? So diving back in, by January 1970, the local newspaper was looking back at the Monroe Monster as a hoax of the decade. It noted Monroe had enjoyed worldwide notoriety for 10 days until police decided the whole thing was a joke. Witnesses, however, continued to stick to their stories. Mrs. Owens, after failing her polygraph, insisted the tests had been rigged. How can I make people believe, she said. 2 hairs proposed to be from the animal were sent to the state police laboratory in Lansing, but newspapers did not hear the reported outcome. And then there is the fact that a similar creature had been reported without fanfare in the same area around 30 years earlier. Was the Monroe Monster a case of hysteria or a cover-up of something that police prefer to keep quiet? The episode is still controversial, and Strange Michigan can only hope that the creatures will still show up once again, behaving more politely this time, hopefully, to settle the matter. And I did find a lot more on this on some other pages, but this is one of those ones where it's a really hard back and forth, where it's like these people are blue in the face claiming that this happened to them. They claim that, the polygraph test was rigged. And I mean, normally I would always side with the person that had the experience because, I can't tell you what you experienced and only you know what you experienced. But on the other side, I question it with the polygraph test. Not that those things are 100% accurate, but if both of them failed the polygraph test, that's when it was like, if one of them failed, it wouldn't be so weird. But if both failed, it's a little weird to me. But
well, and this is one of those deals where more than one thing could be true at one time. I mean, before we got to the point about the Scooby-Doo hoax and the pants being seen under the gorilla costume,
supposedly.
Allegedly. I kind of jotted down some notes like, it attacked a car. It was grunted like, this is totally a dog man. And like you talk about on the show, a lot of like Sasquatch reports back in years past could have been dog men. They just didn't have better words than Sasquatch for it. So, I mean, this could be one of those situations where, the initial report, some of the reports, whatever, were a legitimate cryptid sighting, and then kind of the hoaxes and the jokesters and whatever kind of just piled on after that.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of stuff, though, that starts off with the Great Depression era. Like, if I'm not mistaken, the Ohio Grassman, that goes back to the Depression era, right? And there's a lot of people that believe that the Ohio Grassman may have actually been, like this mentioned in that article, some type of like nomad or something like that was living off in the woods. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I did put some stock of validity into that off the aspect of like, okay, yeah, you're not going to confuse a person for a big hairy animal. But on the other side of it, though, if this guy is a hermit and he's trying to live in the woods and doesn't want anybody to bother him and he's not even supposed to be there in the first place, wouldn't it make sense that he might try to come up with some type of way to scare people away from where he's trying to live at? Like, particularly the Ohio Grassman, even maybe this one, particularly the Ohio Grassman, though, the guy was making like, the little like hideouts and everything out of like grass, and maybe it is a Sasquatch. But on the other side, if you already had the ability to do that, would it be that much harder to make a grass suit to scare people away from that stuff? I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe there's some validity to it that they just purposely threw a bunch of mud and fucking other shit on them, just try to scare people away from the area they were living in. If this goes back that far, or there is a fucking Sasquatch in the area, I don't know. Because 1930s, man, a lot more possibility of Sasquatch being all over the place.
Or it's feral humans. I haven't talked about feral humans in a minute on the show, so I've been jonesing over here.
Dude, weren't we eventually going to get to an episode about that? Or did we, we did part of it on the North Carolina one, right? But we didn't do a full episode.
Yeah, when we were talking about like missing 411 and the national parks and all that, we talked about it a little bit in that episode.
So at least we touched a little bit. Maybe we can come back around to it and just cover all the weird stuff. Because I want to do one about the Michigan melonheads, because that's one I didn't add onto this one because I thought it would be its own good, solid episode. But
yeah, for
maybe
sure.
we can kind of wrap that in as a whole and do the melonheads with all the feral human stuff.
Well, and the melonheads thing kind of ties in, or potentially could, to like Dover Demon type stuff too, which we talked about on the show. So,
and that could even tie into extraterrestrial stuff, according to a recent guest.
Dun dun dun
dun dun dun. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back with that bizarre stuff you crave.
But just a quick reminder, if you would like to snag some gear from this show, inquiries of our reality, or one of your favorite creatures or topics, hop on over to the Open Minds Media merch store for a wide range of designs and new drops regularly, and t-shirts for the low price of just $15.68. That's oddly specific, plus shipping.
And we are back with the high strangeness. Let's get back into it. So, diving into the next one, and this one is a very short one. I didn't really have too much other information on it, but it was just super weird, so I really wanted to share it. Bunny Man of Choat Road Woods. And this is literally just a paragraph on this one, coming directly from the person that saw it. Paulding, a tiny community on U.S. Highway 45 in southern Ontonagon County, has already given its name of the mysterious lights that appeared some miles south of it near Watersmeet. Now it appears the woods near Paulding hold yet another secret, a pure white, man-sized bunny rabbit. A believable middle-aged woman named Lil told Strange Michigan that it was in 1958 that her and her mother had a forest encounter that she never forgot. She used to work in the woods near Choat Road between Paulding and Bruce Crossing, said Lil, and she said she saw what looked like a white rabbit, only it was 5 feet tall. When it saw her, it ran away on two legs, she said. Lil I just couldn't believe it, but Mom wasn't the type to make things up. If she said it, I believe it. Choat Road runs north and south about 5 miles west of Highway 45. And again, I couldn't find more information on that, but a 5-foot Snow White fucking bunny man, like, here's a little somewhat artist depiction of it, but...
Yep, that's definitely a bunny.
Any thoughts on this one, man?
So didn't we talk about like a bunny man serial killer?
Yes. And that's when I try to look up anything about this, that's all you get. And that's what I got stuck with, is that I couldn't find any reports on a bunny man creature because everything that came up was the bunny man bridge, all the...
Well, there we go. It's a psyop. The bunny man serial killer was a government agent that was trying to suppress information about this giant bunny man thing. And so when, years in the future, you Google bunny man, you get the serial killer, not this thing. There we go.
Because they don't want you to find this secret base where they're just creating all these like fucking Narnia human hybrids, Like they're like, we gotta steer the direction away. Like let them go chase this serial killer in a rabbit suit rather than a 5-foot white fucking rabbit. Like honestly, man, I'm afraid if she would have followed this thing, she would have fucking went into a weird room with a strange man wearing some weird black glasses, and he would have tried to hand her 2 pills. Red or white. Or red or blue. Follow the white rabbit. But except for if it's a 5-foot tall one, because then there's something already fucked up with the system, man.
Yeah, I think like this big rabbit man thing is almost scarier than like some of the other shit we talk about on the show. Like if I ran up against the half bald, half hairy cryptid of undetermined origin, I'd be like, okay, whatever. Like I'd be fucking terrified if I saw a 5-foot tall rabbit just running around on its hind legs.
Dude, I want to see this thing attack, though, because if you watch, like, normal rabbits attack, have you ever seen those videos where they just, like, smack the shit out of something with their front paws? Like, can you imagine you just are like, holy shit, a bunny man, and this thing gets scared and it runs up to you, and you think it's going to do something, like, horrifying, like, bite you or whatever, and it just starts coming up and just bitch smacking.
Rabbit Fight Club doesn't show up in my feed. I guess my algorithm is off.
You got to look that one up. It's great. It's really fun.
Okay. I feel like if you put like Bunny Fight Club into like Google image search with the safe search off, you might get some interesting things.
Yeah, you're right. You might get 2 white girls fighting.
Well, I was going like more Playboy Bunny type situation, but yeah, there you go.
I was thinking snow bunnies, but I don't know.
And moving on
to the last one that I have for you guys today. And everybody's heard of the Chicago Mothman. Everybody's heard of the Point Pleasant Mothman. But have you guys heard of the Michigan Mothman? Because I have not.
Negative.
Until I've read this article. So this one, again, comes directly from the person who had this experience. And it is the Pellston Mothman. Our true story begins at around 10 p.m. The area is known as the Lars Lake Haunts, or others refer to the area as Struntsmanville Swamps. Lars Lake is heart-shaped and spring-fed and is part of the haunts and the swamps. A road tours around it. The Struntsman name comes from the road about 5 miles south of Lars Lake. Many who live in the area do not wish to travel the roads of the Lars Lake haunts because of some strange sightings. The locals are known to take alternative routes to avoid driving through. Sightings of Bigfoot, flying creatures, which I personally have seen, which apparently this person has personally seen many times, flying orbs, and wolfmen have been noted. The Wolfmen, a.k.a. Dogman.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. The flying mud orbs that I have some...
Whoa. I'm going to stop you right there. Flying mud orbs.
The flying mud orbs that I have seen many, many times are like a round mud ball that whooshes by your car. The orbs are gray, brown in color and about 1 foot long. I'll just let you unpack that one for a minute.
No. That's definitely just like Sasquatch turds that they're throwing at you.
The Sasquatch is moving so goddamn fast, you just think it's a giant fucking mob of mud.
Mud orbs.
You know those times when you're driving on the freeway and you just get like a big glob of mud on the front of your fucking car? It's
a mud orb.
It's a mud orb. It's a fucking Sasquatch shit.
Yep.
To go back to our story, we are going north on Canby Road on the way from a picnic. The date was Wednesday, July 25th, 2007. Suddenly, a large creature flew from above and hit our windshield. The height of the creature was about 9 to 10 feet tall, and the wingspan is hard to guess. This thing looked all white in the front with a black back. It had 2 back feet that appeared to be 2 front feet, all white. It was so big that it covered the width of the windshield. In an instant, it disappeared as fast as it came. No sounds were heard. Even when this thing hit the car, there was no sound or bang or anything. We looked high and low to see where it went. Funny thing, we did not get out of the car. My friend turned the car around to drive the other way, and nothing was to be found on the road or in the sky. The plausible explanation may be that an eagle, turkey, or hawk flew into the car, yet I have never seen an eagle, turkey, or hawk that was totally white in the front of its body. When we got back, my friend took a flashlight to see what was on the car. From the bike rack, he picked off what appeared to be a feather of some sort. Many have said that our sightings may have been one of the Mothman. And just to show you what that little piece looks like, there's that little piece of this supposed Mothman type creature.
That's terrifying.
Right? And I didn't find anything else about any Michigan Mothman anything. But the only thing that I did find, which maybe there's a correlation, maybe there is not, and again, giving credit where credit's due, this one comes from Lon Strickler over there at Phantoms and Monsters. And this one talks about an owl man that was seen near Iron Ridge, Michigan. And when I was looking into this Mothman sighting, it was near the tip of the lower peninsula, and it appears that this sighting was basically almost touching Wisconsin up in the upper peninsula. So it's a pretty good distance apart, but the only other like white flying cryptid type thing that I could really find for Michigan was possibly an owl man. So that's, I mean, if you want to get into this counter, we definitely can. It can be a little bonus add-in one if you'd like, but if not, then yeah, this is the closest thing I could find to some type of white Mothman.
But yeah, so I guess kind of my thoughts on that is I thought when you were reading through the report, the coloration was kind of odd, the white and the black. And, I kind of think this might be one of those situations where it was just like an eagle or some big bird that these people hit, because I think people like really underplay like how big those like birds of prey are, and I think if you like ran up on one in your car on some back road in the middle of the night, it would probably freak you the fuck out,
I mean, I will say that like hawks, people don't realize how big those things are. For anybody that has a chicken, it's like twice the size of a chicken, but like seeing them flying around and shit, I would have assumed they were the size of a chicken, but they're twice the size of a damn chicken. Well,
and an eagle is huge. Like an eagle's the size of like a sixth grader, I mean, if something like that did hit your car, it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that like in the heat of the moment, you'd be like, oh my God, that was something weird and otherworldly,
So supposedly the wingspan of an eagle is 70 to 90 inches. And it says that their body height is 9.4 body width is 9.4 to 13 inches, with their average height standing 17 to 24 inches. So roughly they're about 2 feet tall, but their wingspan is... What is that? What's 70 divided by 12? Roughly fucking 7-8 feet.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So, I mean,
that's well the width of a windshield, like they said in the report,
I mean, that or they just had to straight up hit an owl. Because, I mean, owls are pretty fucking big, too.
Yeah, owls are big, too. And so this is kind of a funny story. Doesn't really have anything to do with this, but kind of does. So... when I was growing up, my dad's best friend was like a motorcycle rider, and he was riding his motorcycle one night, and he was the same thing, kind of on this back road, and he hit a buzzard when he was on his motorcycle. And like, I mean, by he hit a buzzard, like the buzzard was flying. He rode his motorcycle right into it. Like the buzzard was like on the motorcycle with him. He was like trying to wrestle this thing off of him while he was riding his motorcycle down the road. But basically he said the same thing, like this motherfucker was huge. Like I had no idea what I hit. It like took me a while to figure out this was a buzzard I hit. So, I mean, when you were reading that story, that's just what it made me think of. Like that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. I just thought it was funny.
I mean, yeah, if you hit a fucking bird, I mean, especially on a motorcycle, that's fucking horrifying. Like it's like something from one of those, I swear I've seen like 10 different movies that were like the early 2000s comedies where somebody's riding on a motorcycle and a bird gets like stuck to their fucking face and they're just freaking out and shit.
Well, no, this guy actually did it. So, I mean, I guess here, I'm going to tie it all back in. My point was these type of things do happen. People do just hit big fucking birds on their car or motorcycle or whatever mode of transportation they're on. So, I'm always prone to believe weird things, but I think this one, it might be an Occam's razor situation. The simplest solution might be the right one. I think they hit like an owl or a buzzard or something like that.
Hey, just
not a buzzard because the color is not right, but you know what I mean.
White front, black back.
All right, guys, we got to take another break. We'll be right back. And now we're getting back to the bazaar.
But, I mean, just to throw it in here, just because it is another Michigan one, I'll just read the person's report, and I won't get into all the background and everything with it, with like the research team and everything. But the original report says it was a grayish white, and it happened to be in Iron River, Michigan, Mineral Hills, where I was born and raised. Also, there was talk of alien abduction in the 70s and 80s, where I am not discounting that this happened to myself or my family. It was about 11 p.m. on midnight in 1997 or 1998, and it was not a large owl. It was far bigger. We were about to drive down a hill, and there was, out of nowhere, like it swooshed down in front of the car. This almost sounds like that report, right? I went to say from one wing to the end of the next, likely 8 to 10 feet wide. This is almost exact. We both screamed, and it flew into the darkness to our old mining grounds. It's almost like it came from behind us and then swooped in front of the vehicle. All I can say is that it seemed whitish gray, and I'm not sure about the legs or feet. All I know is it was like a human-like body and then a humongous wingspan, far larger than an owl's. It is just like if my husband, who is 6'1", would be flying and have a huge wingspan. When asked by the investigator, she said she had previously had any encounters. The witness stated that she had not. The witness then stated that a friend of hers had mentioned her that they had another encounter approximately 2 weeks after the initial encounter. My friend reminded me that there was a second time within weeks of the first encounter. So yeah, basically 2 people had this encounter of this thing, and almost the first one basically lines up with that one. So I mean, either one, there's a bunch of weird big flying things around Michigan that people are almost hitting, or the most logical explanation is maybe there's just bigger owls in certain areas that people just haven't fully documented. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I certainly don't discount that there's not some weird, big, huge cryptid flying around in Michigan. But here again, I think most people just don't realize how fucking big an owl is. Like a few months ago, so the apartment complex where me and Jenny live, our apartment is like right next to where like the pool area is. And so there's like tall trees right there. And we were like coming up down the sidewalk, and there was this huge fucking owl like in the tree by the swimming pool. And this thing was massive. Like it was right in front of us. Weirdest thing I've ever seen, like just like stared us down. I don't think it was like anything paranormal, but like this thing was huge. So I think people just don't realize how big these things are. Like you said, you think, oh, well, it's probably a little bit bigger than a turkey or whatever. No, they're way fucking bigger than that.
Dude, I had never seen an owl before, and actually the first night I had seen an owl was with you, actually, but you went up to bed, actually. It was when we were in Ohio last for Small Town Monster Fest. You know how we're all like hanging out outside and everything, we're having our drinks and everything afterwards, and then you guys went to go to bed, and I just said, I'm going to go for a walk around the building real quick before I go to bed. As I'm walking on the side of the building, like these are fucking like skyscrapers, not like a big, huge city or nothing like that, but at least, you know, like say like 20 floors or something like that, right?
Yeah.
The building next to us, I hear this thing that sounds like something screaming, like a little kid screaming. I'm like, what in the fuck is that? I started looking up in this building. I see this giant fucking owl that's flying back and forth between our hotel and the building next door. And considering that, dude, like I said, this is like 20 stories up, and this thing still looked fucking huge from that size. Like, can't imagine how big that damn owl is. But before that, dude, I'd never like heard an owl screech, and I'd never seen one in person. Ironically, I saw one in the middle of a fucking city. So that's that.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't know we were going to get into the Shayn Orin ornithological hour tonight, but yeah. So that's kind of where I fall on that last one. I just think owls are really fucking big, and people don't realize how big they are. So,
so is that your last thoughts on this episode? You got anything else you want to throw in before we start wrapping everything up?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you for putting this one together. This was kind of fun to talk about some weird stuff that certainly I have never heard of. I bet a lot of our listeners haven't. I think this like super localized regional stuff is a lot of fun. And like you said, these stories a lot of times only appear in a few places and are basically just word of mouth. And so I think it's really important for people to keep alive the folklore and the stories and the legends and whatever of where they're from. People always talk about nature and nurture, and those two things are very important. But I think, where you're from is like almost as much or more so important than nature and nurture. And I think it's like really important to, have a connection to these type of things. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's really cool that you put this episode together. And I think it's cool to keep these super localized, weird stories that nobody knows about alive. So
well, I'm glad you knew what I was trying to go with that one, because like I said, in the beginning, I could have covered the generic stuff from Michigan. I could have covered the Dog Man, all that kind of stuff. But my intention with this one was, Michigan doesn't get that much credit for all of its weird stories. Nobody thinks of like anything weird when they think of Michigan. Like I said, Dog Man, UFO stuff, but I'm trying to bring some of the old folklore alive again to give it a new medium, because a lot of this stuff, like I was just saying, it's all in books. Like I don't even know how much this has even been transferred to like a conversational podcast medium before.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to do some more with this, at least for Michigan, and try to bring some more of these stories back into the light. So hopefully, the Michigan residents appreciate it, and maybe we can get heavier into the North Carolina stuff. And like you said, just hit where you're home first. And like a lot of researchers say, man, you got to start the investigation in your own backyard,
Well, and, every state has a ton of these like weird Michigan, weird North Carolina, haunted whatever books. And I think, a lot of people just kind of write those things off as, that's just a cute little ghost stories almost. But those are, super localized, super regional cryptid accounts and, ghost stories, of course. But if you look at those things through a different lens, that is your area's cryptid and high strangeness accounts. And I think, podcasts and things like this, if we can, bring those kind of stories to light and, almost give them more credence than, haunted Michigan or haunted North Carolina gives them, I think that's, a very good thing. And I think it's an important thing to give these stories the recognition and the importance they deserve.
And I mean, even we're bringing back old stories to kind of extend on that a little bit. So again, we talk about it almost on every single episode of the show. The whole idea about like people describing what they have with the language that they have at the time. So if you're diving into these old stories, to give them honest validity, I think what you need to do is every like 20, 30 years when the vocabulary changes up a little bit, dig into these stories, because there may not have been anything to you the first 6 times you read it. But all of a sudden, 10 years later, more information's been given, more information's been figured out about the phenomenon. Then all of a sudden, boom, this story that was obscure and meant absolutely nothing now checks 6 boxes of something you're researching.
Exactly.
So like in order to do good research, you have to bring these old stories back up and see if they're checking boxes now, because they may not have fit anything in the past.
Well, yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like a lot of things that, 30 years ago might have been basically a campfire ghost story. Like if we look at it with today's lenses, we're like, oh my God, no, this is something completely different. And only by revisiting these kind of stories, like you said, everybody knows about Dogman, everybody knows about Mothman. It's these kind of things that are ripe for, reinterpretation.
And I do have literally 2 other big ass books here that are full of these weird accounts. I got half a shelf that's full of Michigan stuff. So what I'm going to try to do is look up all these super obscure stuff, and then we can kind of cross over them with a new lens, and maybe it can extend into other states where maybe we can kind of make it somewhat of our little niche that we start doing, where we just try to find obscure stories and try to observe them through a new lens. I mean, maybe we can make that kind of a thing that we do. So that being said, if anybody has some really, really localized stories, throw them at us, man. We can put them together for a show, and we can put them through a new lens, put them with our research. But in order to make that a thing, if we want to super localize this, like, we're going to need your community help out there. If you guys have a story that's literally like only in your county, like pass that shit over to us, man. Let's bring some life to that thing.
Stay tuned, guys. This is our last break.
But if you guys enjoyed this show and think we deserve it, please leave a review or rating for the show on iTunes or Spotify or any other podcatcher you use. Your continued support is what makes this show possible, and your opinions go a long way to help the show grow and improve. So thank you guys. Now feel free to skip past these ads so we can get back to the show.
And now we're getting back to the bazaar. All right, Shayn. So again, thank you for putting this together. I'm excited to see where this kind of series that you're working on goes. So yeah, kind of wrapping us up. Shayn, why don't you get on with the end of house stuff?
So for anybody that kind of noticed in the beginning, we're changing the format up a little bit, trying to make it a little bit more of a breeze past all this stuff and trying to hopefully add some cool effects so that it isn't so interjecting to go to break. But that being said, with this new format, if anybody enjoyed today's conversation and they want to show some love, smash that follow icon or share today's episode with a friend, because grassroots support from listeners like you guys is exactly how this show grows. So anything that you do, we greatly, greatly appreciate.
And if anybody wants to get in touch with us for any reason whatsoever, you can do so through what channels, Shayn?
You guys can either, one, email us at bizarreencounters@outlook.com, or you guys can get a hold of us through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the ones that we're the most active on, or you guys can get a hold of us through the submission forum, which of course is available on the link tree directly at the top. Quick and easy and convenient for you guys. And the last way you guys can get a hold of us is through our hotline number. You guys can call or text that, whatever is easier for you guys. And you guys don't have to worry about me answering directly. You guys will be leaving a voicemail on that one. So don't hesitate to call. Leave your shout outs for the show. Tell us about your encounters, anything you guys want to do. And that number is 313-364-1551.
And another reason we kind of wanted to revamp the intro and outro is so we could give some extra love to our wonderful sponsors and friends of the show. So if you guys have the time, please check out I Know Squatch for all your squatchy gear needs, Snarly Yow natural products for soaps and beard oils. And I'm currently using the body wash right now. It smells fantastic. Shout out to our buddy Dave.
I got the beard oil and I'm smelling it directly up from my beard.
That's great.
Makes it
Joe
soft.
Cryptoteology for your wearable cryptids, which I haven't done in a while, and Big Ape Threads.
I just want to make a quick comment to say that I appreciate the fact that you remember all of our messed up sponsor stuff, and thank you for adding that into that outro, because that made it a lot more fun. And on the other side, if you guys have the extra time, don't forget to check out our other awesome friends that have affiliate links set up for us, which we greatly, greatly appreciate. Previous guests of the show, Dimension Devices, making those absolutely fantastic ghost hunting equipment of devices. Oregon-ite over there making some awesome little figurines with resin, and you guys can just check out all the information about that down in the show description. It's that Oregon-ite energy where it will bring positive energy into your workplace or anywhere that you choose to put one of these things. And the last one is a sticker mule. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, you guys can get some t-shirts printed, some stickers, anything that you guys want to do. And I know that there is a $10 credit that is available for that down in the show description, and there are additional discounts for all of those things that I mentioned, and all of those again are available down in those show notes.
And as always, all this shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description.
And guys, we definitely kept it bizarre, at least for the sake of Michigan on this one. But we'll definitely make sure that we keep it bizarre for every state. But in the process of that, you guys out there have to remain just as bizarre as us. So always, always remember to stay bizarre. Bizarre.
The bunny man is a psyop.